Are you a football fan? Have you ever found yourself wondering, what in the world was that ref thinking? Well, Mike D, the referee, is here to help you. Join me on Whistle Talk as I talk to professionals on the field and in the booth to help you understand what is going on inside the mind of a football official. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, it is May the 4th be with you. May 4th. What's happening, folks? Mike D, the referee, coming at you on May 4th with my friend, Coach Chip. Coach Chip, how you doing? May the 4th be with you, my friend.
Quattro de Mayo, my good buddy from New Jersey.
Yeah, Quattro de Mayo. So, all right, now that I changed my opening song a little bit to my Star Wars nerdery back in the day. So it is May the 4th as we're coming to you live tonight. And for those that aren't able to make it live, you'll be able to catch everything on Wednesday as we drop our episodes, all of our episodes on Wednesdays. But I got joining me tonight, Coach Chip from Georgia. Coach, what's happening, buddy? How you been?
Brother, in the words of Doc Holliday, I am in my prime.
Ooh, I'm your Huckleberry.
There you go.
Great movie. Great movie. So we are in May, and what that means is we're getting close to 7-on-7 season and strapping the pads on for some summer workouts and getting ready for some scrimmages right around the corner. Got a couple months left, and with that, we got our rules segment we got to go through. So Coach Chip has been gracious enough to jump on with me tonight. For those that remember, Daniel Chamberlain jumped on with me last season. Daniel is unable to make it at the current moment, but hopefully able to get him on for an episode or two here, along with Coach Chip, to
Absolutely.
get those coaches' perspective on what we're going to be doing here with the NFHS rulebook. I talked about it a little bit last week. If you are a newer official, this is a great series to listen to because you get a different perspective than what you may be hearing in your cadet class or reinforcing what you're hearing in your cadet class. And for the salty old veterans like myself, I enjoy doing this because it gets my nose back in the book. Or if you're not somebody that likes to sit there and read the book, because it does get a little monotonous, you can sit back and enjoy and just go for a listen and yell at me like Coach Chip was doing last week as he was fishing on the beach, listening to my episode about the wristbands. But yeah, it gives you another perspective that you could do it. And for me, I am a visual learner, also an auditory learner, and I'm a little bit I need different ways to learn. So this is a great refresher for me also. Coach Chip, where can people find you this fall? What's going on with you coaching wise?
Well, yeah, I'm going to volunteer again at the Heritage School in Newnan, coaching their offensive line. I go up there 2 days a week during the season, and I'm doing every Wednesday during the off season. I go up, eat lunch with the coaches, have meetings with the coaches, and then after school, I do an offensive line training academy. We call it the WALA, WOLA, Wednesday Offensive Line Academy.
Ooh, I like it.
And we run several kids in there. You know, with small school, everybody plays everything. Got track going on, baseball, but we got several linemen showing up, a couple of tight ends, and it's an hour of offensive line indie time, which you know as well as I do. That is a offensive line coach's dream.
You betcha. Get the indie time because,
of course, everybody can find me at Football Talk with Coach Chip on YouTube, and then my podcast is Football Talk with Coach Chip, the podcast.
You got some catchy names there. I like it.
You like that pause? The podcast.
The podcast. So now I love how you're mentioning that you have some tight ends joining you for the offensive line because in today's football
last year. We had zero. We didn't run a single snap with a tight end last year, and it wasn't by choice.
It was by bodies. Yeah.
You know, I don't know. God took a break from making tight ends. We didn't have any all those years we won those championships at Lynette. We didn't have tight ends, and
see now,
but a couple of those bodies, but they had to play on the linebacker on defense full time, and so it's difficult. But we've actually got a couple of kids, big old tall youngins that are coming out, and it's looking good for us to have some tight end sets this year.
Now, whatever happened to the days of having your sixth offensive lineman throw on an eligible number and just going out there to block and setting the edge for you? Because those days
We
have
did
kind of
do
gone
that.
by.
We did do that,
Yeah.
but it wasn't a tight end. Yeah.
Yep. But yeah, that's where I got my that's where I cut my teeth in the coaching ranks, was as the tight end coach at Montclair State University, where I graduated college. My injury stopped me from playing, so my head coach offered me a coaching position, and within 2 years, I had a tight end with 8 receptions and 2 all conferences. So,
All right, real quick before we get started on the rules, I'm going to say tight end, and you tell me the first name that pops in your head. Tight end.
Mark Bavaro.
You're such a dang Yankee, man. You know, Dave Casper.
What?
Dave Casper.
What's wrong with Mark Bavaro?
Nothing. He's just a Notre Dame, and he played for the Giants. Dave Casper,
yeah.
who also played at Notre Dame, but he
Yeah.
played for my beloved Raiders in the 70s.
I'm aware of his work. Come on, I still can visualize Ronnie Lott bouncing off of Mark Bavaro in that NFC Championship game in 1986. One of the greatest plays. And the man, he was Rocky Balboa of football at the time.
But, you know, he was very athletic. Just think if he could play today when they're flexing him out, like
I know.
Kelsey and the long-haired guy with the Niners.
Oh, Kittle.
Kittle, yeah. I mean, I think big as he was, Bavaro could have been a flex.
He could have. I mean,
Not
heck, if you can make
permanent,
Gronkowski a flex,
Oh yeah.
he was massive.
But yeah, Bavaro, man, he was like a bowling ball with razor blades.
Yep. And then we'd have Howard Cross on the opposite tight end when we went 2 tight end sets, and have Maurice Carthon and Joe Morris in the backfield. Yeah, that's why I love power and and ISO and counter so much, because that's what I grew up watching. Bill Parcells smash bounce football. So that's
roll tide, baby.
Yep, there you go. All right, so with all that fun stuff being said, Coach, want to dive into our Rule 1 script tonight?
I'm here, man. I actually reviewed it. I did my homework, Mike. I did my homework.
Coach, I need you got to come take my class, because you're better than most of my students doing your homework. I love it.
Well,
All
they
right.
probably have real jobs.
Well, that's debatable. So Rule 1, again, we got our game, we got our field, we got our players, we got our equipment. Ladies and gentlemen, I am going to preface this talking about Rule 1 that 99% of these things, 99% of the population that is around football probably knows. This is not going to be really much mind-boggling or new breaking material here, but it is one thing that us as officials, we always need to remind ourselves of. And again, for the coaches that are out there that are listening because of Coach Chip, well, you guys just need to know a little bit more about everything.
Hey, if there's any coaches out there watching the YouTube live, please comment below so Mike D can see you.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so first slide here is the game. 1-1 in our rule book. The object of the game is to carry or pass the ball across the opponent's goal line. Kick the ball through the opponent's goal, and the winning team scores the most points. Woo! The game of football has 2 teams, a field, an inflated ball, which we will talk about, Deflategate, an interval called a down, and how points are scored. And tonight we're going to be focusing on 11-person football, 11-man football, but there can be and there are different leagues with 7-man football, 8-man football. But tonight and through our series, we are going to be focusing on our 11-man game. So we're going to talk about all these different things. Rule 2, which is going to start next week, is a longer segment. We're going to dive into the actual definitions of things, such as, every definition that we need to know. So when we come over to the sideline to explain it to the coach, we're using our terminology to them. And sometimes if I'm talking to a coach, I'll dumb it down to the coach's language. All right, Coach, you want to take this one?
All right. The game is administered by officials. Referee's authority to rule on any situation. Game official decisions are final. I thought that was an Alabama rule, but we'll get into that later. Game officials' authority starts 30 minutes before the game or earlier. Correct me if I'm wrong. It starts as soon as they walk on the field, right?
Yes, and we want to typically be on the field, and each state's going to be a little different. But in New Jersey, they want us on the field a minimum of an hour before the game.
An hour. Okay,
Yeah,
so there's an hour. Okay. Continues through the end of the game and after any reports filed. And I think you and I talked about one of these before. Ends when officials have exited immediate playing vicinity. In 2016, when in the handshake line, we had an opposing player rabbit punch one of our players going through the line, and a melee ensued. And the officials had left the field and they came back on and started taking notes and writing down numbers. So when the game is over, they're not done. So we learned that.
yeah,
And
and something new that we've done here in New Jersey is we are now allowing our replay to the state for the state to sit there and watch. And pick up on things too. So it's not just our eyes, but now the eye in the sky is also going to help in that determining factor on
well, no, that's
something in
definite.
that
Yeah,
scenario.
that's how we ended up not getting in a lot of trouble after that fight. The state, this is 10 years ago. This fall will be 10 years ago. We had a great camera guy. He was a school teacher at our school who had a side hustle where he shot weddings and receptions and things like
Yep.
that. We had all the equipment. Well, he was able to enhance it and blow it up and show where the fight started. Now, we still got fined because it was at our place, but we didn't carry the brunt of the punishment because it was obvious their kid started it. But I will tell you this: we had two or three of ours that finished it, and
Ooh.
uh, and that's where we got in trouble. All right, replay equipment used by officials prohibited, except for that what you just said.
Unless adopted by the postseason contest.
But now
So
but you can use it after the game though with fights and stuff like that,
you
right?
betcha. Yes. After the
Yeah,
game,
and
absolutely.
that's a good rule. Now, this is the thing that when I started coaching in 1985, I still remember it because it said in the Alabama High School Athletic Association, there are no protests. And so I thought it was an Alabama thing, but apparently it's a federation thing.
Yep.
Protests are not recognized, which is a
That
good
is
thing.
correct. Yeah. I mean, sometimes I agree with it. Sometimes I don't. Hopefully, if you have a good crew or at least a good member on a crew, we can possibly eliminate this need to happen. But yeah, we still get shit, excuse my language, from our assigners when coaches call up and complain about a game or a ruling or something. And if the coach is correct, well, we're really gonna hear it. But unfortunately, the game stands as it is. Now, with that, we had an incident a couple years back. I think it's now 2 seasons ago, where a ruling on the field was incorrect. It was the final play of the game. It was on a blocked field goal attempt that was scooped and scored. So we had a scenario with that where a flag was thrown. It's a whole long scenario. The teams protested, and the state's like, sorry, the result is what the result is. But then the state came to our association and gave us all royal hell for the incident. And we were wrong, and we learned and we moved on from it. But unfortunately, one team felt the brunt of it as opposed to another team. So it was a tough situation for all involved, the officials, the teams, the players. So it was, and I still don't fully agree with the state, but I understand where they came from with how they ruled on us, because players came onto the field. So it was a scenario where the participation rule was brought into play, but they said that it shouldn't have been deemed an illegal participation because the players weren't participating in the game because it happened on the opposite sideline, even though they had 40 people on the field. So it was mayhem. So with that being said, moving on, we got our field dimensions. Our field has not changed in a very long time. We are still playing with the NFHS rules. So we are 53 4 inches across from sideline to sideline. We are 100 yards from goal line to goal line. We got a 10-yard end zone that goes the full width across. We have uprights, which they recommend to be at least 20 feet high, which Coach Chip, I know that you can attest to sometimes when they're bowing out on that angle or they're tilted. One side might be 20 feet and the other side might be 19 feet, but they want it to be 20 feet up. And then we got our restricted areas, which our restricted areas did grow after the COVID era. It used to be 30 to 30. It is now 25 to 25. And then you got the team box, which is directly behind that, which is where all the players and coaches are supposed to be once the snap is imminent from there. So that's our basic field dimensions. Again, nothing here has really changed. Restricted area should be 2 yards or more. Again, this is where I'm a fan of the turf fields because 90% of those turf fields have that big white line painted, where your grass fields sometimes only have that thin line that's painted. So we want to try to make sure that we have that. Coach, you got anything with this?
I know a coach that used to paint the visitor's side restricted area only 1 yard.
Gamesmanship, I love it.
Yeah, I know him well.
Was his name Coach Chip?
No.
Oh,
No.
okay. All right. So I'll finish up this one here with the field. The outer limit of each end zone are the end lines. Our sidelines are the lateral limit of the field of play. Our goal lines are the vertical planes between the field of play and the end zone. And our boundary lines are the end lines and sidelines, and they are out of bounds. So if a foot touches on a boundary line, they are considered out of bounds. And here on the graphic, you could see the yellow lines, the green line. Okay, these are going to be the boundary lines, our goal line, different things like that. Goal line extended, which is something that we are going to talk about. These do come in more with Rule 2 with the lines. Again, we're going to talk about these in Rule 2, as you can see, 2-26. But it's worth mentioning as we go through our basic field dimensions here. All right, and the last one on the field, 360 feet by 160 feet, or 120 yards by 53 and a third. And our field of play is within the sidelines and goal lines, and then the 10 yards in each end zone for the depth located between. And also to note, our goal line is part of the end zone. So once that ball breaks the goal line, that ball is in the end zone. So I guess you could say that the end zone itself is going to be 10 yards and 3 inches, because when you add that 3-inch goal line,
True. That's true.
But it depends on who you have painting your lines for you, because it should be from the front of the goal line to that end line should be 10 yards.
Speaking of painting lines, coaches, if you paint your own field, the top of the numbers are 9 yards, not the bottom.
Yes.
And the 5 through the 5 should not touch the out of bounds. There should be a gap there.
Yep.
And I know I sound nerdy, but when I graduated college in the middle of a school year, back then they were on quarters, I couldn't get a job coaching or teaching in the middle of the year, so I went to work for a rec department, ended up working for them for several summers, and I became a field painting nerd working for the rec department. The only lines that should touch the out of bounds lines are the goal line and the end lines.
Yep.
The rest of them, there should be a gap there. And again, nowadays more than ever with spread offenses and all this, and us using the numbers and the hashes for our alignment rules, the top of the numbers are 9 yards, not the bottom, from the goal line. I mean, from the sideline.
From the boundary line. That's correct. And for us, we need to know that because that needs to be accurate, because that's where a player has to check in between downs in order to be considered part of the play. Now, if it's a no huddle team, we're typically going to give them the leeway with that, but it's when a substitute's coming off the sideline, they have to get to inside the numbers. That's when they're considered checked in. And so we need to know that. And gosh, I mean, I've played on fields, even if you just paint the box, if you don't have the budget to paint the actual number, just paint the box. Make sure that it is painted in the correct
line at the top and the bottom of where the numbers would be.
Correct.
It's not even a full box. Because on our practice field, to save paint, we just put a line at the top of the number and a line at the bottom of the number, just for our alignment rules. At least do that.
It makes a huge difference.
Correct.
And also, I want to add 3 yards is for the high school extra point line. 3 yards, not two like the NFL, not four. So, Coach Chip, if you see an umpire on a grass field walking the ball out, they're walking it off, even though there might be a line painted in the ground, they are walking off from the goal line back. Sometimes they'll go from the 5-2, however they want to do it. I prefer goal line out. But that's to make sure that the line that's painted on that field is correct. And that's something that I'll do in my pregame walkthrough of checking the field and different things like that. So I take note of that because I've also worked on some turf fields where it's a former NFL field. So that line is painted at 2 yards and everyone's like, well, the line's there. I'm like, yeah, but the line's irrelevant in that aspect. You're going from the 3 yard line.
If it's at the 2, I'm going for 2 every time.
Absolutely.
All you got to do is make half of them, and that's like being 100% on the extra point. Yeah, that's great.
Yep. All right, Coach, here's where you were just talking about. So I'll let you take this one here.
Yep. Yard line extensions or tick marks. I've called them tick marks for years. I didn't know that was an actual thing. The tick marks at the side. And by the way, those matter to me too. We have route concepts where we use the top of the tick marks as landmarks. They're optional. And I do understand places that don't do it, where you got to paint your own field and things like that. But the tick marks are those hash marks that are up against the sideline, or as Mike D said, the boundary line, using a technical term, Mr. Referee.
Yes, sir.
9-yard marks, those are at the top of the numbers, and they should be every 10 yards. What do you think about places like LSU that have the numbers every 5 yards? I think that's a little bit up. I think they're doing too much.
I personally think that fields like that are a little obnoxious. I might be in the minority of this, but I think that I'm not a big fan of Boise State's blue field. I just saw, I don't know if this is AI or not, that Ohio State's going to be going with a crimson field. I like green.
No, that can't be true. Eastern Washington has the red field.
Yeah, from what I heard Ohio State was doing it. Again, I could be completely incorrect. I hope I am.
I hate the horseshoe. All right. So 9 yards from sideline every 10 yards, not required if visible numbers. Top of numbers represent the nines. One line, 24 inches by 4 inches, with centered within field at 3-yard line. Okay, and that's the extra point line. Okay.
All right, and I'll let you take this one again because this one also you talked about.
End lines, goal lines, sidelines are continuous. They connect. They will touch the boundary line. Look at there, Mike. You taught me something, buddy. Yard lines are every 5 yards. Tick marks should stop 4 inches from the sideline. Decorative marks and end zone should be 2 feet away from the goal line and the end line. So if, kind of like Tennessee does with their Purina dog chow checkerboard, they got to be, because I'm old enough to remember when they touched the goal line and the end line, when the whole end zone, and then Notre Dame's got those diagonal lines. I remember when they touched. And if you look at it now, they've got that buffer there that, what is it? How many?
2 feet.
2 feet. And then ads, commercials. So if you're playing at Kia Field, they can't obstruct. So you can paint it across the yard line, but the yard line has to run through the logo where
Correct.
You can see the yard line. Just like on a basketball, when the midcourt line goes through the logo.
Yeah, and it's for some of the schools, it's almost like a ghost line where it might not be visible from the press box, but on the field we can see it. So we have those markings. So, but yeah, it has to be visible in that aspect. And I'll tell you one thing with the turf fields, one of the negatives with the turf fields is 99% of them are not turf football fields, but they're turf multi-purpose fields. So you've got the soccer lines on there, which the soccer lines, it's a wider field. It doesn't really pay any issue with football, but with the lacrosse fields, sometimes their line matches up with the goal line or the end line. So again, pregame, you're going to see the wing officials that are going to be on those areas talking with each other. All right, hey, it's the white. Make sure we got white line, not yellow line or whatever line that they may have painted with that.
Well,
So, because that
when we go up and play around Atlanta, I don't know if you know this, but lacrosse has become really huge in the Atlanta metro area.
great sport.
And we played a school up there that had the soccer markings, the lacrosse markings, and I felt like an overstimulated toddler just looking at the field. I was like, it's crazy.
Yeah, my daughter is heavily involved in high school lacrosse now. She's hoping to play college lacrosse. So I'm getting used to it. But when you're down on the field again, you got to kind of give yourself that reminder of making sure you know where you are. And when that ball crosses a particular line, that you know what line it did cross.
Absolutely.
So once again, now our next graphic here is our restricted areas, our coaches areas. We've already talked about this. Just a huge thing. This is a point of emphasis this year is the sideline control. So just understand, coaches, call your play, then back out. Let us work. Let us have our area to work. We're letting you have your area to work. Once that snap is imminent, you got to get out of our area. So you see a team box and then coaches area. That coaches area needs to be vacated again at the snap of the ball. So it's a whole 3 yards from the sideline. And again, if you're trailing the officials, if the offense is going from right to left and you're hanging behind the end line, behind the offensive backfield, we're typically not going to bother you if you're a little bit up there. But it's when you're on the defensive side and you find your defensive coordinators, because they're trying to see how everything's stretched out so they can communicate with their players on the field, they tend to come out onto the field a little bit more. And now all of a sudden we get a long pass play, and now we're opening up our hips and running. Well, now we run into a coach, and it becomes a hazard for everybody, more so for us because we're not seeing what we're running into. But I mean, heck, I'm 6'3", 225 pounds. If I'm running full speed at you and you're not that size and I run you over, I might win that one, even though I'm not looking. But yeah, just stay out of that area once the ball's snapped.
Whoa. Have you lost weight?
Trying.
You've lost some weight.
Lost a little bit. I keep on finding it, though, every once in a while.
Yeah. I mean, when we first met a few years ago, you were more than 220 something. Good for you.
Thank you. I know we're all trying to get a little healthy. You've definitely. I know we've talked. You've dropped a couple of lbs too, and I'm not talking linebackers.
No, dude. By the way, off the subject, my running days are over.
Yeah, me too. Unfortunately,
my left knee is shot, but I bought a bike and I've been riding like crazy. Anyway, back to this.
Beautiful thing. All right, so our field equipment, pliable. Make sure they're soft. Ladies and gentlemen, when this, you don't see much at the high school level, but you'll see it on the youth level where they've got the hard plastic cones. That's not good. We can't have them out there because somebody's going to fall on them. So pliable, soft, squishy material. You see the triangular yard marker there. I'm going to go back a screen here. If you're setting up a field, don't put them on the sideline. Put them back, because you're going to get upset because the officials are going to come and they're going to move those back, far back, probably about a minimum of 3 yards off the sideline. Yep. They're decorative. They're for the fans to be able to see. Get them back, keep them back, because on the coaches area, we sometimes throw them behind the team box because they're not needed, because you got all sorts of humanity. You know what I'm trying to say.
The old country schools in South Alabama, they put metal yard line plates on the fence.
Yes. Yep.
Behind the team. That way the fans could see it, but they didn't come into play.
Yep.
Kind of like road signs.
Mm-hmm. No, I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah. But yeah, we're going to move them. We're going to get them out. The goal line one, the G, you've got an orange pylon that you can see pictured here, and then you're going to have a G that's going to be right next to it, which to me just seems a little bit redundant, but you can't have all the other numbers and not have the goal line. Yep. But we're taking that one, and that one particularly, I'm moving that one like 5-6 yards back, because A, nobody else should be there. B, I'm backing off anytime the play is threatening that pylon, because I'm keeping my big butt safe. So I'm getting that area, getting that out of my way, because I have seen officials, my hand up included, trip over those.
I was about to say they're soft and pliable, but they will trip a man.
Oh, yes, they will.
Yep.
All right. Our goalpost, our
Oh,
goals.
Mike, go back, go back.
Going back.
All right, you see the pylon?
Yes.
I'm old enough to remember when it was a flag,
Oh, yeah. I've,
the little
Coach,
flag sticking up. Henceforth, the term a flag route.
yes.
When
I'm
I
right
was,
there with you.
yeah. Anyway, go ahead.
I'm
And
right there with you.
for those of y'all wondering why they call it a flag route, that's why you run to
Yep.
the flag. Yep.
And this would be why they call it a post route. Run it to the post.
Correct.
All right. So our vertical plane midway between the sidelines extending up to infinity. Again, they've got suggested heights. 10 feet up is where you're going to have your crossbar, and they want another 10 feet up for the goalpost. But that goalpost continues up and up and up and up. So when you have that ball that is kicked over that pole, that's technically no good. It's got to be inside that pole. And that's why you'll see official 1 stationed underneath that pole, official 2 stationed underneath the opposite pole, and we should always have 2 officials under there. Even if it's a 5-person game, you're going to have 2 people under there. You may only have 1 on the line of scrimmage, but you should have 2 under there, and they're going to look at each other and confer. And then if it's good, they're both going to go up at the same time. If it's no good, they're both going to wave it off. And it's when one goes up and one waves off that we got holy hell.
Yep. I saw that in one of those NFL films years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're always communicating on that area.
Speaking of NFL films, I just read this the other day. I think it was a Packers game with and I forget who they were playing. It was when Lombardi was on his run, and they won. I think it was against the Colts, and they won the NFL championship or the division championship or whatever to go on and play it. And they kicked the field goal, and they only had one official under the goalpost, and he ruled it good. And the Colts to this day, the Colts on that team that are still alive will tell you that kick was no good. The next year, the NFL put 2 officials on the goalpost. This is back like 66, 67, somewhere in there.
I was going to say, look back and watch those films and see how many officials. It was probably a 4-person game at that point in time. And
oh yeah, even in the NFL, yeah,
yeah, you're seeing your sideline guys like 3-4 yards onto the field and then kind of running with them. So it's definitely different. All right, we got our game equipment here. We got our standard football. We've got our straight on kicking tee, which I don't even know why they put those babies out anymore, because I don't know many straight on kickers anymore. And then we got our down markers, and I got mine behind me. I've got the sticks and then the down marker. So the chain crew. All right, Coach, I'll let you take this one.
Oh, good.
The
I've
ball.
got comments. The ball specifications 131, tan colored, which is not true. Now they come in their orange to begin with, and then you break them in.
Yeah.
And when you break them in really well, they turn brown. The ball can be leather or rubber. Note to coaches, if on the kicking, especially the kickoff, buy a rubber ball. Inflate it to the max and slightly above it. If the officials question it, take a little air out. Here's why. The rubber bounces better. Coach Chip is a onside kick person or a squib kick person. Those rubber balls will take bounces that leather balls will not take. I highly recommend your offensive plays are taken with leather balls and your kicking is done with rubber or composite. As long as it has that NFHS on it, you're golden.
That's the big one.
They should have 8 or 12 evenly spaced laces. I've never seen an 8 lace one. I read that earlier today, and I said, I've never seen that.
I don't think I've ever counted them.
I have, but I'm that nerd. Continuous 1-inch stripe, which is a half stripe around each end.
Yep.
And in the old days, they had no stripes.
Yeah.
Do you know why?
I don't.
Well, they had no stripes just because stripes were more expensive. But why did they start putting stripes on it? Because they started playing games at night, and also they started playing games on TV. the stripes made it easier to follow in the air and easier to see at night. And the original stripes went all the way around.
Yep.
Go back and look at that. And that's why the stripes are there. The stripes can be white or yellow. Now they're doing that optic yellow, like tennis ball yellow. And that's good too, because some high schools, especially in the rural South, are dimly lit. And so those fluorescent stripes really help the receivers and the fans and the officials follow the ball in the air.
Mm-hmm.
12.5 to 13.5 psi. And you can talk about Inflategate all you want to, but I don't think it's that big a deal.
No, I don't either.
It must have the NFHS authenticating mark, and it's usually right there around the valve. The word you couldn't find when I was fishing on the beach last week, it's called a valve.
Thank you.
That's when I was yelling at you. I was like, it's a valve, Mike. It's a valve. Oh, I got a bite. So,
Senior moment.
Permissible markings, manufacturer's name, logo, school name, logo. I love those balls. We had balls last year that the laces were our color.
Yeah. Yep. I've seen those.
That was so cool. It had a little logo on it and everything. And I was like, did that cost any extra? And the guy, no, it didn't cost any extra. Just school name, logo, mascot, conference name, state association name. And we've got those. I know in Alabama and Georgia, they have the AHSA and the GHSA. Mm-hmm. And of course, the NFHL name and logo. And let me ask you something. What is the official ball of New Jersey? Do y'all have one?
It's no, because some people will use a Nike. I'm going to say the high majority of people are using Wilson's. But I have seen the Nikes used, not often. To me,
see it in Alabama, Georgia.
Yeah, you want to know? I'm trying to think I don't think I've ever seen it in a varsity game. I'm trying to think maybe in a sub-varsity game. Oh well, yeah. But the Wilsons are not too cheap either. Which I want to go back to.
We went to them. I want to say it was in the 90s in Alabama.
Oh,
we went to it became the Wilson thing, and you could play with any ball you wanted to play with during the regular season, but come playoffs you had to play with a Wilson. And
gotcha.
Wilson somehow, I don't know. That's why I did the money thing.
Yeah.
They had baseball, they had basketball, and they had football in the state of Alabama. And you could play with any ball you wanted to, but when you get to the playoffs, you had to play with the Wilson ball. Well, what kind of dummy is going to play with the ball they can't use in the postseason?
Yep. Well, that's why I'm saying I think I saw the Nike ball for sub-varsity games where, somebody brought it from home. We're not really looking for any kind of markings on those balls typically.
Well, a sporting goods dealer told me that the Nike balls are made by Wilson.
Oh, yeah.
In Ohio. They just put the Nike logo, kind of like when you go buy something at Sam's Club or Walmart that's got their brand on it. It's made by the real company, but
yeah. 100%.
Yeah.
All right. So the ball continued. Each team shall supply at least one legal ball to the referee, or 90% of the time to the umpire. The umpire is usually in charge of checking in the ball. Referee will have final decision on ball approval. Again, my referee defers to me on the ball approval. And I'm going to, for the new people out there, do as I say, not as I do. I usually let everything go, because unless the ball is completely greased up or slick and worn down, or it's a beach ball that comes out to me, I don't know that I've ever checked for a ball marking during the game. Ball gets tossed from the sideline to me. I'm getting it. I'm putting it down. I'm keeping it dry if I have a towel, but I'm not looking for my initials on the ball. It doesn't happen, especially with weather now. I'm not looking. If you've got a new ball that wants to come in, as long as it has that NFHS mark on it, that's what I'm looking for. The Deflategate, talking about that with the air pressure. Well, no. It's again, unless you bring me out a ball where I can squeeze it and touch my thumbs to my fingers on the opposite side, I'm usually okay with it. But I had a quarterback that wanted a very deflated ball, And I've tried throwing deflated ball, and yes, I can. At first, I can grip it a little bit better, but it's heavier. It deadened my arm a little bit. And then that same team came out, and the kicker came out with a brand new, that orange ball that you were talking about. He kicked with that ball, and you know how those things are when they're not broken in. Those things are rock solid, and it's cold out. I said, you guys are backwards here. I said, your quarterback likes a ball that's a little bit squishier, and you're sitting in here with a ball that's rock solid. And he's like, oh, this is what I like kicking. I'm like, okay. But yeah, so
let me tell you another story about a coach I know. You never rub off the initials. You play early on in the season, coach, and I'm telling the officials, this is an old trick. They put their initials on it.
Mm-hmm.
It's approved. And then, meanwhile, because down here, we know who's coming.
Yep.
And we go, oh, Mike D is back. Go get me that Mike D ball. If we like it overinflated, we'll overinflate it. We like it underinflated, we'll underinflate it. Because when it comes on the field, it's got Mike D's initials on it. He's
Correct.
already approved it. That may have been 8 weeks ago, but
Correct.
he approved it.
Yep.
Now,
Which goes back to why I don't really check it.
I've heard of coaches that do that.
So yeah, to me, it's semantics. I've got better things to do in officiating the game than double check the football. But I will look at them.
An overinflated rubber ball on an onside kick makes a difference.
Coach Daniel will be proud of you weaponizing the rules. As long as it's got that NFHS stamp on it, I got nothing to say to you as you bring that out to me.
Well, I was doing it before he was born, but anyway.
All right, so
defend yourself, Daniel. Come defend yourself, by God. Be a man.
The choice of ball for a free kick or a start of a new series. This is the ball gets brought into us. We're going to go from there. You cannot change the ball for a punt or an extra point. That is not allowed. You cannot change a ball for a field goal. That is not allowed. The ball that's in play is what you're going to be using. Unless it is a wet ball and we're swapping out a ball for weather, you can bring out a new ball for a kick, but what you're using in that series is going to stay out there. So you can't bring out that kicking ball as you're going for that 45-yard field goal.
Has that been a rule forever?
That I've known, yeah.
But they don't. We've been doing that for years, Mike.
Not supposed to happen.
Okay.
Just the ball that's in play. Now, if it's a pick six or if it's a scoop and score type of scenario, and that's the other team's ball, that ball goes to the sideline. You bring in a kicking ball at that time. If it's got my initials on it, which it won't. If it's an NFHS approved ball, I'm putting it down and we're playing football from there. So you may get it on the sudden change type of scenario, but yeah, because that the ball that scored is going out, but the ball that scores, typically, if it's an offensive touchdown, it's staying on the field for that extra point. Okay. And it says any official may order a ball change between downs. This one's important because again, I can only speak for my crew. We try to do the best that we can to get the ball down, get it playable for the team. But if it's a wet day and they want to swap the ball out, I've got no problems with that. If the whistle is blown or the ready for play or we've got it spotted and we're about to go, and then all of a sudden they're like, oh, can we change the ball? Most likely it's no. And that a lot of times is going to come from the sideline. If it's the center, I'm going to do my best to keep it dry and to dry it off for them, but we're going to keep that ball in. Then after that play, I will swap out a ball, no problem with them. But once it's ready to play, we're not going to kill the clock to swap out a ball in that type of scenario.
Okay.
All right, Coach, other game equipment, 134 through 137. Take it away.
Kicking team must be pliable material and elevate the ball no more than 2 inches, unless somebody gets smart and they take something like matches and glue them to the bottom of it. So on these thick plush fields, it elevates it a little bit. I don't know who would do that, but it's been done. The line to gain equipment, chains, 2 rods, 10 yards apart, down indicator. That's what do y'all call that? The box?
The box, yep.
Always on side of the opponent. What about these schools like years ago, I knew schools that would be on the visitor side. Coaches liked the box and the chain crew on their side. Have you ever seen that?
On the home side?
No, they would put it on the visitor side, but the home team would be on the visitor side.
Oh, oh, no,
And
that's interesting.
I know when Larry Blakeney first got to Troy, he did it
No, I don't think I've ever
back in the
seen
early
that.
'90s. Yeah, because I was in grad school.
And the
And
only time we'll kind of deviate from that again is when you got those sub-varsity games where you have kids holding the yard
oh yeah,
markers.
yeah.
So we try to
And
keep
they're
them
working
away
for
from
Big
the
Mac and
opponents.
French fries. Yeah,
Correct. Well, no, they don't even get that. They're getting that from mom on the ride home.
yeah. Always on the side of the opponent or the press box, opposite the press box. Uh, 2 yards off the sideline, and that's something new that started a few years ago. It used to be right on the sideline.
It should never be on the sideline.
But you remember though when it used to be on the sideline.
Yep. And that since
That's
I've
that.
been officiating, that is a no-no. So for at least 10 years, that is a no-no. And that's where we want to actually just place them right in front of those numbers that you see on the field. So that's kind of our gauge. So when you get an inexperienced chain crew and the numbers are right on the sidelines, all of a sudden they're standing almost in the field. I'm like, no, 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 everybody back, get back. So
Yep.
we always tell the coaches, no, our guys got to be able to run up and down without getting anybody tangled in those chains. So please let them go and keep everybody behind them.
No, I do remember though when they were right there on it, and yeah, that was bad.
Yeah.
All right, timing devices. You got a game clock, which is usually on the scoreboard. Sometimes it's on the referee's wrist, especially on the Saturday morning games
Yes.
with 10 and unders and all that. It's provided by the site, the stadium, electronic clock operator. Usually, when I played, there was a guy on the sideline that had a little box in his hand, and he ran the clock from the sideline.
Really?
Yeah. And you'll still see it every now and then, but nowadays you don't see it much at all. But there was a guy on the sideline, and all he had was a start and stop button on that box.
Mm-hmm.
And he was right there with the officials. And it was better, in my opinion, because you didn't have that issue of that guy in the box always having to look at the umpire, the white hat, either winding it or doing this. They were right there on it, and they could talk to the on-field officials.
Yep.
I still remember that. That was back in the '70s when dinosaurs roamed the earth. No replay or TV equipment by. Yeah, I love that when a coach has got the iPad. He said,
Yep.
Look here,
Right here.
Yeah. And the referee's going like, no, I can't look. And then you got the official to official communications, the walkie-talkies, approved by New Jersey for officials' use. We've been doing that down here forever. I love it.
Yeah, we've been. Goodness, we're probably now a solid 5 years of everybody doing it, but it was used before that. But now, yeah, everybody use it. And gosh, we had a game where one of our officials' batteries were dead, and it was a mixed crew, and so other people that were on the crew, their head referee typically brings it for them. So we didn't have enough radios, so we thought it was going to be an easier game. So we're like, we'll go old school style and not bring the radios out. I felt naked.
Yeah.
The lack of communication that we had in the moment. Yeah, we could slow the game down and go and talk. It keeps the flow of the game going so much better. Where on the far sideline, if I'm getting a penalty call, I can radio it to the opposite sideline and let them know what's going on. Hey, do they want it? Are they declining it? And all that stuff. It keeps the flow of the game going so much better.
Yeah, I like it because like if the phantom holding call that you and I've talked about, that there's no such thing as holding. But when you ask the guy on the sideline what number held on the other side of the field, he said, I'll give it to you in a second.
Yep.
And boom, he talks to the guy and he gives you the number. I
Yep.
love it. It makes the game flow. It's good.
Yep. And for the officials out there, try your darndest to get the number, because the coaches want it, not to get on you or say you got it wrong, but they want to coach up their kids if they did do something wrong.
Correct.
So, all right. So players, equipment, coaches, and all that fun stuff. So here is where you're going to have your pregame conference. Coach, are all your kids properly equipped? Yes. Boom. That's it. I'm moving on. Now, if we see somebody out there with no knee pads, coach, he's got to go out. He's got to get knee pads on, whatever it may be. But this goes back to the uniform police, and I know it's still a big bone of contention with the knee pads and all that fun stuff. That's a whole nother episode. So
if I was an official, I'd say, I am not Joan Rivers, and this is not the fashion police.
Yes. The big one now, and this one I still love, is the kids walking out for pregame with those tinted visors. And they're like, oh, it's just my pregame visor. Okay. Just so you know, don't bring that out onto the field come game time, but they like to wear it for pregame because their Instagram followers can see them warming up. I don't know.
There's only 10 people in the stands. But, the thing about that is I agree with that because it is for the safety of the kid. If you got a kid that gets knocked out
Yeah.
or a concussion situation so the trainers can see his eyes.
Yep.
100%. You got to tell the kid, but you can't tell a teenage boy nothing. They think they're invincible anyway. They're going to live forever. Just ask them.
Yeah. So my next slide here is player designation, and I'm not going to dive into this one in much depth tonight, Coach, because this one we're going to see in a lot of future episodes. But your numbering for your players is going to be designated by your offensive position. You got to have 5 guys on the field with the numbers 50 through 79 on a regular scrimmage play, 50 through 79, 5 guys on the line of scrimmage, and then 1 through 49 and 80 through 99 are eligible numbers. So we're going to just kind of leave it at that. 0 cannot precede the number, nor can you have 00, but you can have a player number 0, but you can't have 01. So that's what they're saying with that. So again, we're going to talk about this one in much more depth in some future episodes. So I just wanted to put that one out there. So we'll move on.
Do you remember the last 2 players that wear 00?
Jim Otto and I don't know.
Ken Burrows, wide receiver for the Oilers.
Whoops, there you go. Did not know that one.
Yep. Ken Burrows and Jim Otto for the Raiders. Yep.
All right, Coach, you want to take the mandatory
player equipment, helmet and face mask with 4-point chin strap. No more of the what I wore in Pee Wee football, just the one snap on each side.
What, the Aaron Rodgers?
What's that?
The Aaron Rodgers?
Oh yeah, that's what we wore.
Yep.
Yeah, there wasn't no that 4-point stuff back in '72, dude. Before y'all think I'm really old, that I was 10. I wasn't 20. I was 10. All right. But tooth and mouth protector, the mouthpiece, which, by the way, does very little to protect your teeth, but I have learned it can protect from concussions.
Absolutely.
And I didn't know that until about 10, 15 years ago. Shoulder pads, and not those Fred Bolentnikoff, Hutch, Pee Wee, get them out of Sears shoulder pads, real shoulder pads. A jersey, hip pads, and tailbone protector, thigh guards, the most useless piece of equipment in the history of the world, the knee pad, pants, and shoes.
Yep. No more barefoot kickers are allowed, so those are gone. I like how you brought up the Hutch shoulder pads. I'm going to tell you, once you walk out onto that field, I'm not pulling somebody's jersey up to check for the NOXI or the NFHS or for any of those markings. That's kind of on the schools. Coach, are your kids properly equipped? Yes. Okay. So if somebody comes out and they look like Jared Lorenzen, God bless his soul, the hefty lefty quarterback from Kentucky, who was 350 pounds, and he was a quarterback, and he had those Hutch shoulder pads on that big burly body because he needed to be able to throw. Well, he looked like he was just wearing a skin tight shirt. But
the Pillsbury Throw Boy.
Oh, so many great nicknames for Jared Lorenzen. So many.
Yeah, like
that's a whole nother episode. Yep.
Yeah.
All right, our helmets again, they must meet the NOxy standard. Face masks must be covered with a resilient material to prevent chipping and abrasions. Face mask must be properly secured to the helmet and that 4-point attachment for the chin strap. Or now you're seeing, and you can see on the graphic here, you have 2 points that are buckled in up top and now even screwed in, and then the bottom two are that little almost like a zip tie type of
Hmm.
pull, which I love. I think that those were great. I wish I had those to easy on and easy off. Get some air for my big old melon head here for offensive line days. But yeah, so those are our helmets. And Coach Chip, I'm sure you can attest to the days of getting those scuff marks into the helmet and having your face mask completely chewed up and things like that. Those days are
Hmm.
kind of gone, and they're looking to get rid of those now. If you still are a fullback, which is also gone, unfortunately, for the most part. Tom Rathman, go look at Tom Rathman's helmets from back in the day with the 49ers. It was all chewed up and it was basically just down to metal. So they're trying to make sure that it does have that uh, chipping resilient material covering it.
And no more painting your own helmets, coaches.
No, yeah. Don't want it
It
flaking
voids
off.
the warranty.
Yep. All right. So our jerseys, unaltered from the manufacturer's original design or production. Again, I don't know what people are coming up with, what the manufacturers are putting out there. But here's the one thing: tuck in your shirt, pull it
Well, I
down so
got
it's
news for
covering
you.
your back plate.
If I got a great set of, if I got six pack abs, I'm cutting my jersey off and getting my mama to hem it up so everybody can see my six pack abs. Those great old LSU teams back in the 70s when all those guys wore those shirts right below their shoulder pads. That was great.
Yes, but now you got the people wanting to show off their back plate that's got some type of logo and saying on it, and cover those up. So make sure that it's long enough for that. Now, it says if long enough, it must be tucked in, but it
Yeah.
must cover all your pads above your torso. So again, if you're, I think it was DJ Fluker from Alabama. Was he the one that walked out with the national championship game with his jersey rolled up underneath his shoulder pads, and
Yeah.
he had his big old belly hanging out in the national championship game? I became a big fan of him that day. But yeah, we don't need to be seeing that. And I always joke around with the kids. I'm like, oh, you guys want to see my big old belly too? And they're like, no.
Now,
I'm like, exactly.
now, he didn't have six pack abs. He had a keg abs.
Yes, sir.
Keg
He may
abs.
have he may have had two kegs. My man could put them away, I'm sure. The home jerseys must be darker in color. The away jerseys are white. The visiting team is responsible for having the contrasting colors. The home team can be required by the referee to change because we can't have the visitor team change because they don't have them with them. So the home team could be
Hmm.
required to change, which I will also tell you in high school, the home team probably doesn't have them with them because if they're a school that they issue the uniforms at the beginning of the year and say, okay, we're home, you wear this one, you're away, you wear that one, take it home to mom to wash it, tell her not to put it in the dryer because it will shrink and then you're going to look like the Pillsbury throwboy yourself. But yeah, a lot of schools don't keep them at the school. Now, a good number of them do, but not all of them do. And the last one is the numbers must be clearly visible. Again, nothing new, mind blowing here. Um, so these rules were put into effect. And again, I love how they put this in the rule book because this is all stuff that should be taken care of by your athletic director and your vendors that are selling these things. They need to know the rules because if they sell you something that's not allowed, well, they just made some cash. So make sure you know what's going on here. And I've got 4 different slides here talking about the 2024 rule change that was put into place to make sure that everybody had the right numbers and logos and all that fun stuff. This last page that I have here, though, is you're going to see the newer days. These are the sublimated numbers. So a lot of these jerseys, my son's jersey with AYF, it was dark on one side and white on the other side. So if they had the wrong jersey on, they literally just pulled it off and turned it around and you had another jersey. Instead of having 2 jerseys, they had 2 in 1.
Yeah, that's cool stuff.
All right, our protective pads. Coach, you want to take this one?
All right, unaltered from manufacturer's original design.
Blah, blah, blah. Move on.
That means, so remember, did y'all used to cut the tips off of your mouthpiece?
Yes.
Yeah,
Can't have it
that's
anymore.
altered, but they can't tell if it's in your mouth.
Yep.
Hip pads and tailbone protector unless visibly. Knee pads. Are there a pair of knee pads out there today that have not been altered?
I don't know.
They
They're
take
under
them with
cloth, so
scissors
I'm
and
not
cut them
looking.
up. Yeah, you know. All right, so it must be over the knee, under the pants, half-inch thick, 3H if shock absorbing. So, Mike, are y'all checking that, buddy? Thigh guards. Man, do you remember Notre Dame's thigh guards back in the 70s?
What, the thin piece of plastic that just made the
The big
outline?
thick ones that went all the way up. You
Yeah.
know, I went
Yep.
like back in the 70s, man, the biggest things ever. And maybe I just think Notre Dame because they were gold and maybe they stuck out. Maybe everybody had them in the white pants, you couldn't tell. Big, huge thigh guards,
Massive. Yep.
shoulder pads and auxiliary attachments, back pad, neck pad, etc. That I love when non-skilled guys want to wear back flaps. Who's hitting you in the back, dude?
Yeah.
You're not a running back. Tooth and mouth protector, any color, covers upper teeth completely. The rule change in 2025. Attached items that don't serve a purpose. When I read this earlier, I was like, I've not seen that. And I know it's a thing or it wouldn't be in there. But those are illegal.
Yep.
Pants completely cover the knee and all leg pads. And it looks dumb. I agree with everybody. I'm old school. When they're wearing those things above their knees, it looks dumb. But Mike D and I have talked about this years, like 2 years ago when we first met and got online together. The most useless piece of equipment on a football field is a friggin' knee pad. But if you noticed in the NFL, they always cover the knee.
Well, they have the fashion police.
Correctamundo. On
And
Mondays, you got people watching the video. Fine for you, fine for you, fine for you.
yep.
Shoes, cleat spikes must be round and less than a half-inch long. Sneakers or turf shoes are fine. But
Coach, you remember the days of the old screw-on cleats and you'd get the
yes,
3/4 inch screw-in cleats?
yes,
Yeah, we don't have those anymore.
yep. But those were my favorite. You had the best traction on them,
Oh, yeah.
but they're useless on turf.
Oh, God, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so here's our mouth guard. Here are the adornments that we have. The chain dangling, a chain dangling with
I've not
an
seen
initial on it. This one's my favorite.
Now I have seen that.
Yeah. And the binky,
I
the
love the
little
big.
fan. These ones are all good now. And Coach, you'll be surprised, but the middle or the second one here with that looks like the teeth, when that
Yeah.
first came out, that was technically illegal in our youth leagues because they said it was intimidating.
Bless their heart.
Yes.
I like that.
All right. So approved auxiliary equipment, forearm pads, Dick Butkus style, baby.
Yeah.
Gloves, they must have the
Whoa.
NOXI or SFIA label on them. Tape, bandage, or support wrap for injury. Coach, have you seen the pre-wrap that is rolled up nice and fine and then tied around their arms so they look like the Ultimate Warrior from the WWF days?
Yes.
That is not for injury protection. And then they have them around their knees. They have
Yep.
them around their calves. They have them around their shins.
Do you think it accents the curve of their calf and the curve of their arm? Is that why they do it?
Yes, sure.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's or just somebody looked cool doing it and everybody else started doing it. Yeah.
Exactly. The towel needs to be one solid color. It cannot be yellow in color, or it cannot match the color of the ball, which, as you have 100% totally correctly stated, that it comes out looking orange, and then when it's mudded up and conditioned, it looks brown and black and dark. So we don't want those kind of towels. Towels no longer have to be the same color for each team, which was a newer rule. You always had to have a white towel or something like that. Now, if you have one that says Gatorade on it, who cares? Not a big deal.
The big thing now is the really good players that commit, they'll
Yes.
wear the college towel.
Yep.
Which, I
That's
understand
neat.
that. I understand that. You know,
Wristbands only on the wrist and extending no more than 3 inches towards the elbow, no bicep, legs, forearms, etc. Under Armour has made a killing on this one because they put out those little thin wristbands that you want to call, I don't even know. And the rubber wristbands, those are not allowed because people, I have seen fingers wrapped and come out completely mangled in those babies.
I did not
So
know that. Okay.
yeah, those little plastic or rubbery wristbands that the kids will
Mhm.
wear, that's technically jewelry. So jewelry is not allowed to be worn. And as we talked about before, Coach, the play cards, the QB wristbands, which are you can find on Amazon and stuff like that, they can now be worn on the wrist or the belt this year. That is one of our new rules. Well, not many, but that is one of our new rules that you can have it on the belt.
Let me ask you, it says quarterback wristband. Can a wide receiver wear one on his belt?
Yeah.
Okay.
So this isn't NFHS rules here with the quarterback wristband. That's my own wording because that's how most people commonly see it. When you go to
Yeah, yeah.
Dick's or you go on Amazon, you type in quarterback wristband and they'll pop up.
Okay.
So our illegal and improper equipment are going to be your casts, unless that cast is padded with a slow recovery foam 1/2 inch thick. Now, this is something that I will check as an umpire. And again, this falls upon my shoulders. When our head referee is talking with the coaches, his follow-up question to are all of your players properly equipped? Yes. Are any of them wearing any type of casts or braces that we need to check out? Number 83 has a cast on. Okay, let's take a look at it. We want to make sure that that thing's not hard, that they're using it as a weapon, because not only can it re-injure their injury, but it can also injure other people. So make sure that it's just wrapped up, and we'll send them over to the trainer if not to have it done correctly. Your rib and back pads, as you mentioned, they have to be covered by a jersey. If not, they are considered illegal equipment. Your pants worn above the knees are illegal equipment. I do got to applaud the NCAA because they are getting rid of the bike short kicker that Daniel loved to talk about, his Oklahoma buddy. That had those things. I mean, hell, I think he even had a wedgie to go along with it. The things were so short. He might as well have been out there in a thong.
You look
But
like Daisy
yes,
Duke.
yep. Your visors, unless they are clear without a presence of tint. Again, why the manufacturers are still putting out those tinted visors and stuff like that, or the fog or whatever some of the terminology that they use, they're making
When those
money on
first,
people.
when the first off, I think the visors for us down here is a waste of money.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll tell you why. When they first came out with them in the mid to late 80s, when I first started coaching, the first game I remember the first kid or two that wore them. We were scrambling to take them off early on in the game because, dude, we were 90 miles from the Gulf.
Oh, fogged up.
They were all fogged up,
Yep.
because they would. And so I came up with a rule early on in my career that said, if you don't practice with it, you don't play with it.
Amen. Preach, coach, preach. Because I said the same thing. Because my son, played baseball. What bat did you just use? Oh, I
Well,
used so and so's bat. Why? You've been practicing with this bat. It's got the weight that you've been practicing with. Now all of a sudden you just swung a bat that's an inch shorter and weighs differently, and now you're completely out in front on a pitch. Like, to me, it just doesn't make sense. But all of a sudden, come game day, they're putting on these different gloves and they've got all these other things on there. Well, you never practiced with that before. How do you know what the ball feels like?
correct. But down here, if you make the playoffs down here, it's November.
Yeah.
And in November down here in the Gulf South, it may be 32 degrees at kickoff. It may be 78 degrees at kickoff. So we always check the weather on Monday and we tell the kids, hey, it's supposed to be in the 40s come Friday night.
Mm-hmm.
But right now it's 80 degrees at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. If you plan on wearing sleeves on Friday night, you better be practicing in them.
Yep.
and that pretty much
100%.
winds that up because they don't want to be too hot at practice. And
Yep.
you'll get out, 40 something degrees. You don't need to be wearing long sleeves because you'll be sweating in 5 minutes anyway. But anyway, you can't tell people, sometimes you got to show them. But
So, talking about now how we're going to go about handling these equipment issues. If the coach doesn't, like you just beautifully stated, don't practice in it, you don't play in it. But if now the player has improper equipment, it's going to be an official's timeout. Again, we don't want to do this. Hey, Mike, tell 83 to pull his jersey down. Hey, 83, come on, pull it down. We don't need to see the back plate. Oh, sorry. I mean, the kid's running around, making plays, diving, jumping, whatever it may be. If they do have that untucked shirt or that shorter shirt and they jump up and extend their hands, the shirt sometimes comes up and it sometimes gets caught on that back plate. So we'll help them pull it down. Coach, just so you know, I was recently told, recently being a couple years ago, not to help the players out with their equipment because now, and I don't know if this is true. I was told this by one individual, but now if something were to happen with that player and the equipment, it could fall onto my shoulders. So I'm going to tell the team, hey, help him with his shoulder pad. When that shoulder pad pops up and it is blocking, or it kind of looks like this teepee coming straight up out of their shoulders. So I'm going to have our teammate help them out, or teammate pull it down. So different things like that. So if it can be handled quickly, just fix it and move on. If it can't be handled quickly, we're going to have to ask that player to be removed until it can be taken care of.
Yeah,
typically, it's one play.
That's crazy.
Our state now, this is a state rule that our state has approved a foul progression, which we're going to talk about more in Rule 3, but it's going to be the warning, and then it moves on to being potentially a flag if it continues to happen. Again, I'll remove the player from the field before I have to drop the hanky on a player for having the illegal equipment. But if the coach is going to be stubborn enough to keep sending that kid out there with that tinted visor, whatever it may be, it's more going to be a penalty on the coach than it is going to be on the kid.
Did I tell you the story about Bruce Miller? He's a legendary coach in Georgia. He coached at Gainesville High School, coached Deshaun Watson and some other greats that went on to play. And he got thrown out of a game about, I don't know, it was late aughts, maybe 15, 18 years ago, because Georgia had instituted a rule that on the second penalty on the sideline, the head coach got thrown out of the game.
Ooh.
And so the guy on their sideline, which I've had Coach Miller on the podcast, the referee on their sideline threw a flag on a kid. I think his knee pads were too high or whatever. And then like 5 minutes later, threw a flag on a kid on a kickoff because his mouthpiece was dangling, and then threw him out of the game. Well, here's the thing. That year they had a rule that they changed quickly because of this. They jokingly call it the Bruce Miller rule. If you got thrown out of a game, you were suspended from the next one.
Yep.
And so, and I just keep sending their butt off the field, because here's the thing. The kids want to play or they wouldn't be on the team.
Mm-hmm.
Sooner or later, they're going to fix the crap.
And if the coach,
tell your guy tell your wing on the sideline, when you see number 12 try to run back on the field, tell him to stop and run him back out. But you ain't got to throw anybody in the game. You ain't got to suspend a coach. All you got to do is keep sending that kid to the sideline. It doesn't take anything but breath. It doesn't slow down the game. Just keep sending them off the field, and they're going to figure the crap out because they want to play.
And Coach Chip, to attest to that, you don't know how many times in the pregame conference with the head coach, guys, I'm so tired of so-and-so in his knee pads and this, that, and the other thing. If you see it, send him out of the game. He goes, I'm done with it. Like, I don't want to deal with it. I can't babysit him while he's out on the field because I'm out there trying to coach up 22 different players. If you see it, send him out, because I've been telling him from day one, you got to have your knees covered, or whatever it may be, the mouthpieces, whatever it may be. So I'm like, okay, coach.
It's like I said earlier, some people you can tell and some people you got to show.
Yep.
So.
All right, so our coach's field equipment. So this one's we already talked about it. You can't show it to the official, but the electronic communication devices can be used now, and that changed in 2025. So the electronic numbers that people are flashing up can be used so that they can signal in their plays to the wristbands, especially for your no huddle teams and different things like that. But still today, you are not allowed to use any type of audio device. So the coach can't be calling in a play on the walkie-talkie to their quarterback or to their safety. So that still is not okay, because that's going to be something that you need to have an automatic kill switch, because you don't want them talking to them during the play and different things like that. And so I don't know that one's ever going to change, but they do allow for the electronic
Did I
signage
ever tell you I did
signal.
that in 7-on-7?
It's 7-on-7 is a whole nother world.
I know, but I tell you, I know I'm not trying to say I got away with something. I did it just to prove a point. I've got this headset that I wear that vibrates into my head,
Yep.
and I put it on my quarterback, and we had his phone put into one of those joggers like you wear
Yep.
when you're jogging, and I called him, and in a 7-on-7, I stood behind the team. Dude, we lit them up because I'm sitting there going like, and we got and I had all the receivers are numbered in my system, and I'm going like 2 on the post, and he's like, and he just lighting them up, and I'm going, dude, I don't give a crap about 7-on-7. It's just a drill,
Yeah.
with another team. But I did it to prove a point, because people were saying like, well, what does it matter? Why do they have a kill switch? And I said, let me show you.
Yeah.
And I said, can you imagine a Lane Kiffin type of coach who can really see the field in the press box talking to a quarterback during the play?
Yep.
Because here I am, I'm just a high school football coach, and I'm sitting there behind the quarterback saying like 3, 4, and and my quarterback said, Coach, can we do this? I said, no, we can't.
No.
I said, I'm just trying to, but it is a great way to teach a young quarterback,
Oh,
is to put
absolutely.
that headset on him and teach him his progressions and
Yep.
stand behind him. It's almost like a virtual reality kind of thing. You're standing behind him and you're seeing it because you're 50 years old and been coaching for 30 years, and you're seeing things. It's a good way to get them to see it, but that's the reason why you can't use this stuff, folks. That's the reason why.
Yeah. Weaponizing the rules, Coach Chip. Weaponizing the rules.
There were no rules. It was 7-on-7. Like I said,
Exactly.
I just did it to prove a point.
All right, Coach. So that's rule 1 right there in a nutshell.
Oh, is it already over?
It is already over.
I love the can't show officials replay equipment. Remember the Steelers coach at the end of a half ran up with the picture and stuffed it in the official's pocket?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Dave wants that.
He's
Oh,
got
no,
a
that was
great
Bill
book.
Cower. That was Bill Cower that did that.
Bill
I'm
Cower.
sorry.
Bill
Yep.
Cower has got a great biography.
Okay.
You
I
need to
got
look
some
that
summer
up.
reading to do.
Yeah. I forget the name of it now. I'll look it up and send it to you. But he talks about that, and he's very apologetic about
Oh,
it.
yeah. I've
About
heard
how
him.
he was wrong.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard. Bill Cower's a stand-up guy. He knew
He's a
that
great
he,
dude.
yeah, he knew that he kind of had a little faux pas moment at that point in time. But hey, it's an intense game. We all know that. That's why we signed up for it.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Coach. Well, I appreciate you jumping on with me tonight.
Oh, I appreciate you having me, man. Like I always tell you, Mike D, I'm that fat kid from Remember the Titans. Somebody said football, and I came a running.
There you go. Well, I'd like to thank you once again. I'd like to thank your wife, Tammy, in the background, sitting on the porch right now. Coach Chip locked her out. But yeah, let's do this again. Rule 2 pretty soon. Next week.
And I'm going to have you on this summer for our annual, I think our 3rd annual Mike D tells us about rule changes and points of emphasis.
All right. Once again, tell everybody where they can find you on your podcast.
I'm Football Talk with Coach Chip on YouTube, and I'm Football Talk with Coach Chip, the podcast, wherever you get podcasts. And it's not your typical coaches podcast where we get on. We do talk X's and O's to a degree, but sometimes we just get talking like you and I when we just hanging out talking, just
Talking ball.
and just talk. I just recently had Tony DeMeo, who is a coaching legend up in the Northeast
Yep.
for small college football. I had him on for 2 episodes, and
Running some flex bone
I
stuff.
had John Ward, who's the single wing guru, on for 2 episodes a few weeks ago. And I've got a really special guest coming up. My 100th episode is coming up really soon,
Nice.
like in 2 weeks. And I've got a dude. I'm keeping it under wraps. When you hit unrecord, I'll tell you.
All right. Well, ladies and gents, go out there and check them out, and go onto the YouTube channel. You'll find some great coaching material that, again, no matter what level you might be coaching, from the high school and collegiate level all the way down to the youth level, Coach Chip's got some great stuff out there for everybody to take a look at, and he's here to help you guys out. He's trying to continue growing this awesome sport that we love from the coaching side. I'm trying to grow it from the officiating side so that we can keep this awesome game just growing and growing. So once again, check out all those sites. Check out the Mike D, the referee, on Instagram and TikTok and all those other silly little social media platforms that I'm on for, well, I don't know. I'm out there. And if you have any questions, feel free to email me, MikeDThereferee@gmail.com. Once again, Coach, thank you very much. Have a great night, and I will see you next week.
Thanks, Mike.